most of us, at least myself, who's wanted to do this job for as long as I can remember, you look up and it just becomes your entire identity. It becomes who you are. And you're a neurosurgeon first, husband second, father third, and you take care of yourself a distant fourth. With you, one of the things you really helped me out is not only the physical component's been huge, there's no doubt, but also we talk about regularly about time with Debbie, about time with my kids. How'd you carve that out? Because my whole world was work first, me second, wife and kids a distant third. And you have flipped that for me.
My name is Brian Pannuzzo. I'm an executive coach that helps successful professionals get wealthy outside of the office in their mind, their body, and their relationships. I'm an expert at this because I did it myself. I sat inside of corporate America in a seat just like the one you do for 2 decades. If I can do it, so can you. Welcome to the show. My name is Brian. Like I said, this is the Success Lift podcast, and I'm so happy that you are back with me again this week for the first podcast ever that I've recorded at 47 years old. I turned 47 yesterday. If we want to get technical, hopefully you're listening to this on Monday at the time of its dropping of the recording. It's December 9th, 2024 for context, for people listening to this way into the future. How cool is that? I still have people that are going back and listening to all 200 and something, 300? Am I at 300 episodes? Jesus, I don't even remember anymore. All 200 and something episodes, I believe. Going all the way back. And while it makes me a little embarrassed about how I sound sometimes, 3+ years ago, I think it's pretty cool. It's a great historical record for people to listen and take part in my journey, and for me to occasionally go back and listen to some episodes. And so if you're listening to this in the future, shoot me a text, hit me up with a comment, put a podcast review up. And we haven't had one of those in a while. I mean, geez, come on, people. Appreciate you a lot, but couldn't you go one extra step and leave a podcast review, maybe a 5-star rating and a podcast review if you haven't in a while? I'm kidding, but I'm not. A couple of things. Number one, it was my birthday recently. We tend to get reflective around milestones. End of the year, a big reflection time's coming up. I shared this with my clients in their client-only message, and I'm going to summarize it. I'm not going to give you the real juice, the real guts, because that's what they pay me for. But I shared a message with them this week in our Monday Mindset call. And I talked about reflection, and birthdays are a time where we tend to reflect. We can reflect on a long vacation, on an anniversary, on a birthday, the end of the year, resolution season is coming. And what if we just decided to reflect more often? And how much I'm reflecting over my last 10 years or my last 47 years of my life or the previous 46 years of my life. What if we started to reflect more on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, which clients of mine have the opportunity to do inside of my programs. And so I reminded them the importance of reflecting on a consistent basis, that we can collapse the amount of time that we are getting feedback, that we are evaluating ourselves. Auditing is a big concept inside of my program, and I know it's a huge part of many of your lives. In fact, if you pay taxes, it's a part of all of your lives. If you're part of a large company, an organization, a team, you are constantly auditing your performance inside of the office. Why not take some of that auditing, some of that reflection, and think about where and how you're doing in other areas of your life, your mental performance, your relational performance, your physical performance? What does the scoreboard say in your life in those areas? And so while a birthday is a great time to do that, to look back and reflect and set goals and look forward and to be grateful and all the things, do it tomorrow, do it the next day. Have a process, a check-in process like we have every Sunday. Have a Monday message that you get to, from somewhere, from yourself. Have a daily podcast that you listen to. Have a way of a pillow test, which we do inside of our programs, a way to reflect at the end of the day. Did I do what I said I was going to do today? How can I improve? Our AAA, audit, adjust, act. Audit your day, adjust to see what's working and what's not working. Make those implementations into tomorrow. Take action. You do that constantly for years and years, and all of a sudden you have a pretty cool life, and I'm still working on it. And so thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I thought this would be a perfect week to not just have me talk to you, but to bring another client of mine on. As I think some of you know, and if you don't, you're, as Biggie Smalls says, if you don't know, now you know. I have been highlighting some clients on the podcast recently because I want you all to get a feel for the type of people that I work with, because I've gotten so many messages already from you all. Thank you for those, saying, what a great conversation with the Lavins. What a great conversation you had with Luke McCarthy. Like, so cool to hear about some of these people that you've worked with before in the past and that you still work with, and they just sound like me. And a lot of their problems are versions of my problems. And isn't that true? And oftentimes we forget about that. We think our problems are unique. And like I always say, they're not. You're unique. Your problems are generic. They're super generic. So this week, my main man, Brad Duhan, is on the show. Brad and I have known each other for over 11 years. I was actually just thinking about the first time we met. I flew out to Colorado with my wife. We were in desperate search of success in our IVF journey, looking to have another baby. And the Colorado Center for Reproductive Medicine, CCRM, in Lone Tree, Colorado, was our last hope. And it was our 10th round of IVF that we were about to do. And we had only had one child, our son Hudson, at that point. And Brad is married to a great friend of mine, Debbie. I've known Debbie since I was a kid. Her brothers are great friends of mine. I went to high school with them. I worked with one of them, still am great friends with them to this day. And Debbie married this dude from Texas named Brad, this neurosurgeon. And for the first time in my life, I got to meet Brad. And not only did I get to meet him, but they hosted my family, my young son, my wife, who was going through fertility treatments, and me for a week in their beautiful home in Castle Rock, Colorado, which was a short drive to Lone Tree. And so we stayed with them for an entire week in the summer in Colorado, which is right outside of Denver, for those of you who don't know. And I got to meet Brad. I got to know him. We got to hang. He introduced me to Shinerbach beers. And he taught me a little bit about what it was like to be a Texan. And about a year or so ago, he reached out to me. Actually, it was a year in November. He reached out to me and he wanted to improve his life. He was not grossly out of shape. He was pretty good, but he wanted to be great. And he realized that there were some things that he didn't know. He didn't know what he didn't know. He was doing a lot of the things that a lot of people do where they just have it on repeat. He didn't have anybody to hold him accountable. He didn't have an expert plan. And so we had a great conversation. And he said what a lot of people do. Brian, this is great. I can't wait to do it. You know what? It's the holidays. I think I'm just going to wait till January, unless you have a really good reason for me not to. And so, of course, I told him my really good reason not to. And he said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. And he started. And one of the things that he has said repeatedly is that having a coach, having accountability, having structure throughout this time, which we are still in this time, it's December 9th. And so we still have 4 weeks until the end of the year, effectively. And so what are you doing with that time? Even if you listen to this a week from now, you still have 2.5, 3 weeks until the end of the year. And so Brad took action immediately. And Brad he looks sexy, folks. He looks phenomenal. He's down 20-ish pounds, maybe about 15 pounds, because we've put on a little bit of muscle since. He's looking lean, he's looking mean. He has referred me multiple clients just by showing up to places and taking his shirt off. And those are the best clients, the ones that get amazing results. People, they walk around and people go, what the hell are you doing? And they go, let me introduce you to what I've been doing. And so I wanted to have Brad on to talk a little bit about his busy life. He's a neurosurgeon, pretty big deal, smart guy, has a big job, travels to 2 other cities on a regular basis, has 2 kids, is married, is a high performer, has all of the stress and the pressure that you do in your life, and he doesn't make excuses about it. He just gets it done. He also loves to eat a lot of the foods that we love. He loves ribeyes. He loves brats. He loves to just absolutely go savage in the kitchen. And so we had to manage around all that. So like all the stories you're telling yourself, Brad has told him before, and he figured out a way to do it. And so I'm super excited to have my main man, Brad Duhan, on the show. I'm going to stop rambling. I hope you have a great week. If there's a moment for you to reflect this week, please take a moment, get quiet. Are you doing the things that align with the person that you want to be? If you're not, I would highly encourage you to find somebody to help you. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's not. I don't care. Just find someone. Just do something. Get people to hold yourself accountable. Follow an expert plan, maybe by somebody who's been there and done that. And if you're interested in having a conversation, I've had 6 people take action between just before Thanksgiving and right now. And normally that is like not a time where people take action. And I am super proud and grateful that these people have. And there's new people inside of this program. And if you want to be the 7th, 8th, or 9th, reach out to me, because I'm still running a kind of super secret December deal for new clients. Talk to you about it when you reach out to me. And I know that the next 2 to 3 weeks can truly put you on a trajectory in 2025 to change your life. So now I'm really going to be quiet. I can't wait for you to hear my conversation with my man, Brad Duhan. Brad Duhan, welcome to the Success Lift podcast. My man, it's so good to see that handsome face of yours. How are you, buddy?
Ryan, it could not be better. I'm flattered. I'm honored. I told you the other day, I got my feelings hurt just a little bit. It's taken me a year to finally get the invite on the show. But yes, I'm glad I'm here and looking forward to this. This is going to be a good time.
Well, I needed you to make this incredible progress that you've made, and forced you to come on and be able to tell your story. We can't have any mediocre progress reports on the podcast. So
I guess like 2 weeks in doesn't really qualify. It didn't really qualify, right?
Now, to be fair, you crushed it from the start.
Appreciate that.
Before we go there, man, let's I'd love some people who are listening don't know who you are, but for the most part, people will be like, "Who the hell is this guy? Handsome bearded guy with a cool little accent." Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dig into your story a little bit and talk about, the last year or so of your life, with me.
Yeah, that sounds good. So my name is Brad Duhan. I'm a neurosurgeon, brain and spine surgery, practicing in South Denver. Born and raised in Southeast Texas, undergrad at A&M Med School in Houston. And then I went out to Salt Lake City, Utah for my neurosurgery training. And, as a Texan, my plan was always to end up back in Texas. It's kind of, where I belong, and, wear cowboy boots with my scrubs. And the goal was to drive an F-250 and, kind of live the Texas neurosurgeon dream. Got to Utah and I learned that I love the outdoors, love the mountain life, don't really need the heat and the humidity. And I fell in love with a Jersey girl when I was out there. Go figure, of all the places. So I know, right? So I drug her kicking and screaming back to East Texas. We practiced her for a hot second. Just wasn't the same going home. It was good to be around the family, but we missed the mountains. So we relocated to South Denver in 2012. And since that time, I've been working, doing minimally invasive spine surgery, some time private practice, worked with the University of Colorado for a few years, now back in private practice. And throughout this phase, throughout the stretches, my commitment has always been, my career first and foremost. And I love what I do. I want to be a surgeon since junior high. There's nothing else I've ever wanted to do. But my health, my physical wellness, and frankly, to be honest with you, my commitment to my wife and my kids always came second. And it wasn't until these last few years that my priorities, when you finally get comfortable in your career, you kind of settle in your career, your priorities change a little bit. You start reevaluating what's important to you, and really took a long, hard look at myself and kind of refocused myself on what's important in life. And one of the good things that came from COVID was we were furloughed and shut down part-time. So I could only do emergent stuff, couldn't do elective. And I was at home for the more than I've ever been home in my entire career. First child my daughter was born in residency. Second was born when I was in Texas in my first job. And all of a sudden I'm home and I'm there for dinner and I'm there in the morning. And I kid you not, I was worried, is my family really going to like me? Like, is this going to be okay? Because they've never seen me this much. And it was fantastic. It was great. Like, I love being home. Go figure. I like them. They like me. And it was a great time. So I've been trying to, these last few years, decided that, I got to refocus. I got to figure out a way to become a better me and spend more time at home with the wife and kids. But along that same journey kind of came the commitment to health and wellness. And it's kind of a backstory. I was having all this joint pain and I was snoring at night, and I'm a fad dieter. I really am. So I've been trying all these different things, but I couldn't really have any kind of guidance or leadership. It was this podcast, it was that YouTube video. And it wasn't until actually my wife, which you know this, yeah, I met you through my wife. You went to, again, grew up in high school buddies with her brother. And she said, you should really reach out to Pannuzzo. Like, this is the kind of thing that he's doing. And it was a little over a year ago right now that shot you a text, hit you up and said, hey, man, I'd love to hear what you're doing. I could kind of use a little bit of help here. And I'm interested in your process. And reached out to you. I think it was November, right about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember the first thing out of my mouth was, it's the end of the year. It's busy. People's met, facing them at deductibles. Let's kick this can down the road, maybe January. And you're like, bro, I hear you. I was like, but if you put it off, I was like, no time like the present. I was like, you called me on it. I jumped on board, and that was a year ago. And here we are today.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up a little bit later.
Yeah.
It's funny. And I do recall you basically were like, listen, you told me to start right now, I'll start right now. But here's what I was thinking. And I talked through with you, why I thought you should start right now, because it's the same thing we all always tell ourselves. There's always going to be another holiday season. There's always going to be another end of the year. I'm air quoting for people who are just listening to the audio. There's always going to be the next thing that comes up. And it's like, the more we tell ourselves that this is a great idea, but this is a great idea when, just to your point, when you finally get your professional career on track and feel like you have a great handle around it, then we'll get to our personal health. It's like we spend all of our adult lives doing that, waiting for things to slow down. And just, Jesus, man, when do they ever slow down? Just before we hit record, you were supposed to have a quiet afternoon at your house, and you got 1.5 feet of snow outside, and you got 2 kids, doing school from home. So it's like, we constantly are being thrown these curveballs. And by saying that or believing that, we're just presupposing that the next time it does get busy, because it will, we're just going to revert back to what we're doing right now. So I was curious if you were going to bring it up, but I was going to bring it up. So why don't we talk about that anyway? Because we're recording this in early November. It's going to be probably early December-ish, drop. So you're listening to this. It's hopefully at some point in early December. Mm-hmm. So we're right in the smack of middle of holidays. You've already smoked yourself with Thanksgiving. You're right in the heart of holiday party season. Christmas is coming around the corner. You're going to decimate your liver from now until the end of the year. What impact do you think working with someone like me had for you? Because you came out of the gates hot, man, really hot. What impact do you think it had on you, just having a process, having a plan, and having some accountability during this kind of 6-week stretch that we all tend to go to shit?
Yeah, in my world, accountability is first and foremost. There's nothing like having to enter that data into an app. There's nothing like having to make that phone call with someone and say, yeah, I know that our plan was this, and I know that my calorie intake was going to be that. I know that I was going to get to the gym, but I didn't. And for me, again, because of deductibles, November, December is the time we put our heads down and we just operate all day long. We're so busy. And then when you finally do catch a break, it's like you said, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, there are holiday parties left and right. And what's so easy to do is that day turns into a week and turns into a couple weeks, and you just have carte blanche to let yourself go. And it's very easy to say, well, this is just the holidays, this is just the season. I'll refocus in January, or, I'm just putting on my winter weight. I'm not wearing I'm not wearing a swimsuit in January. Who cares anyway? It's okay. Like I'll just lift heavier, during the stretch. But for me, it was the fact that I had someone to answer to all of a sudden. And I had someone that had to make that call and admit that, okay, yeah, I didn't do this, or yes, I know I'm going to do that. And I agree. I really think that I stuck to the plan pretty quickly. I think I adopted pretty quickly because I'm the kind of guy that I'm a rule follower. I always have been. I was a nerd in school. I like doing the right thing. I didn't get in trouble. If there's someone telling me this is what you're supposed to do, great, I'm in. I do quite well when it comes to following instructions. So I never had anybody to give me that guidance, give me that tutelage before.
Yeah. Other than financial professionals, I would say medical professionals is probably my number 2 avatar for whatever reason. They tend to be some of the more unhealthy people that I see, which is not necessarily ironic because I understand now the amount of stress, the demands on your time, that you guys have. I find that most everyone I speak to has this one major belief, right? They believe that they have to live a certain way in order to have the things that they have, to have the career success, to support the demands that they have on themselves as professionals. And as you've experienced, I think, and I think I do a really good job of helping everyone that I work with understand, is that's some bullshit. You're a unique person, but your problems are fairly generic. But having said that, guys like you, people inside of your profession, I worked with another surgeon right at the same time as I worked with you. I have a lot of like medical device, sales rep kind of guys who are traveling a lot. You travel a fair amount, especially for your typical sort of surgeon, right? And the demands on your time are a little bit unique. A lot of my financial professionals are grinding every day, but they're sitting down. They're not, they have access to food arm's length away. Sometimes that's a problem. Sometimes that's not a problem. But in terms of planning, I feel like their lives are a little bit easier to plan. Like, do you think that, your life, did you believe that your life was unique in some way, given, you having to be on your feet for 4 or 5 straight hours, or having an entire day of sort of procedure after procedure, or being in a different office on a Tuesday versus an OR on a Wednesday? Like, what aspects of your life did you feel like were unique? And then maybe now realizing like, yeah, it's different, but there's rhythm to it. Like, I'm just here on Wednesdays. I do this on Tuesdays. I go here 3 days a month. Like, what aspects of your life did you maybe used to think were really unique, which kept you from having it all physically, relationally, mentally, and professionally, versus now you're like, oh, that was, I was just kind of telling myself a story?
Yeah, there's no doubt. The OR days are always the most challenging for us because there's so much variability there. Clinic days are clinic days, and kind of give you a little background. My typical day, I have so many days a week that are clinic days. Those are fairly straightforward. They start roughly the same time, it ends roughly the same time. I may or may typically get a lunch break, so those days are very easy to factor things in. It's harder on clinic days to get active from a step standpoint. But as we'll discuss, I got there. I figured that part out, but that wasn't intuitive to me. The OR days are, you may have, 2 really long cases. I may have 6 shorter cases, and the breaks in between are highly variable. So the nutrition on the OR days were the most challenging for me. The third variable with this is always trauma call. As a neurosurgeon, I'll cover anywhere from, 1 to 3, emergency rooms sometimes when I'm on call. Sometimes those days are pretty light. Those don't really disrupt too much. Other days, it's just putting out fires nonstop. And you get your first call when you go on at 7 a.m. and you're still there at 2, 3 in the morning. So those are the days I don't rely on. Trauma call days are the ones where I can't rely upon myself to be as consistent and know that I'm going to get that workout in. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get that afternoon meal in, because you never know when the page is going to go off. So you capitalize on the days that you have. I know my clinic schedule. I got to knock it out of the park. There's no way. I've got to be on point. I've got to factor in everything there. Those days, be sure I get my lift in. OR days, the beautiful thing about the OR days, between cases, I've got 20 to 40 minutes, depending upon what I'm doing, to move. Right. So I'm out, I get to walk, and I've got stairs all around my hospital. So I get the hospital staff laughs at me because they just see me walking. They'll see me pacing, and I'm like, just up the stairs, walk down the stairs, over here, walk down to the basement, just move the entire time. Even if I can't get a lift in, that's fine. I know that I'm going to get more steps in on an OR day than I will on a clinic day, because I can just, between cases, I don't sit down. I don't go. Like, I finish dictating, talk to family, and I move on. But you build in, you knock it out of the park on the days where you have those consistent schedules. And then if you have a light trauma call day, congratulations, just icing on the cake. You can throw in some cardio. I can throw in some hikes. I can get something else in. But those are kind of gravy days, if you will. They're extra days for me that I can kind of take advantage and do a little extra.
Yeah, what I recall is us, consistently just kind of planning out, a few days ahead of time each week, right? Either via the structured check-in process that we had, where you were actually, I asked my client, I can't plan out everyone's week. They're your weeks. I ask you to think about what does your week look like? What are the commitments that you're making? Then not only that, but then thinking about where are the curveballs coming? It's like, being in a batting cage and just being like, all right, I know one of these 4 pitches are going to be a curveball. So if the first 2, are fastballs, it's a 50% chance the next one's coming. So the longer the day goes the longer the week goes without a curveball, everyone, like, curveballs are coming. So we should be
sitting on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I find, we ended up, game planning a few days in advance, and you having a little bit more clarity into what, one of those days was going to be, certainly 24 hours out. And just about everybody has those. I remember how excited you were. It's so weird. You start to nerd out on this shit. How excited you were when you figured out there was a stairwell next to the
right by my clinic
days. Right. Damn stairwell. Stairwell was there the whole time, bro. Your mind.
I've been in that office for 12 years, and I just figured out the stairs were right there, right? So you start looking for it.
Wasn't in tune to it. Yeah. And I was talking to a new client, and he was like, he's been so good in his career in maximizing his 45 minutes in between the end of the workday and the start of an event. And so he was going to a Yankee game and playoff game recently. And instead of using that 90 minutes or so that he had to go see 3 clients, probably accumulate 4 or 5 beers, right? All in the name of his professional career and advancement. Like, he wasn't screwing around. He was constantly thinking about, who can I see? I got to head up to Midtown to go catch the train on the east side to get up to the stadium. Who can I see on the way there? Who can I have me meet at Grand Central before I jump on the train? So a lot of times we're thinking productively. We're just not always thinking with the lens of, like, hey man, how do I prioritize myself a little bit during this period of time? And so I found that your brain turned on to that quickly as well. And we all have them. We all have these little moments. And that's where, I can't just tell you what to do, because I don't know where your office is relative to the stairwell. Right. Like, the more we start to get you to think about some of this stuff, I mean, everybody I work with are pretty highly successful, highly intelligent people. Your brain starts to turn on to this stuff. And then you find these little moments here and there, just like you're referring to.
Yeah. And that was when when I look at my clinic day, quite often I stay ahead and I got to run behind. My mental clock is constantly going. I can't handle. So if I finished up with patient number 1 and my next patient's not in until 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, great. Well, as opposed to sitting there and mindlessly scrolling or sitting there and just perusing the internet, I walk outside, and my staff all knows, like, you going walking? I'm like, I'm going to walk and be back in a minute, be back in 5. And even if it's 2 minutes up, down, and I also kind of factor a little bit of mental stuff too. So I'll use that as a kind of a time to meditate, I kind of focus, and I do a lot more I listen to a lot more, mental focused podcasts to kind of think of your intentions and what's my daily intention today? What am I going to think about? What am I going to focus on? How am I going to try to get better today? So I'll hop in the stairwell, and not only am I getting my steps in up and down, but I'm also focusing on what's important to me today. What's my intention for the day? How do I want to treat people? Do I want to focus on gratitude? Do I want to focus on kindness? Do I want to focus on patience with my patients? But I'm in the stairwell, but I'm also kind of thinking about these things. And so it's the physical aspect of it. But when you're walking, there's really not much better time to really use your brain, right? To focus on what's important, whether it's creativity or whether it's, focusing on key concepts that you think would make you a better person, or at least just make the day a better day. It's a great way to spend 5 minutes and kind of bring yourself back into that mindfulness approach of what's important to you that day.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of the medical professionals I've worked with in the past have always talked about, burnout. It's a big thing for them. Mm-hmm. And they sort of get into this profession of service, and they want to serve people. And clearly you're serving people all day. You're saving people's lives. You're improving their quality of life. And the irony is, it's not ironic to me anymore, but in the beginning it was like, the irony is you spend so much time, I feel like I just went to work selfishly as a douchebag Wall Street guy, right? Like, how much money can I make?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Got to pay my country club bill for the month.
Right.
You at least showed up, with an intention of service. I know the money's good too.
I get it. Yeah.
I just found it ironic, at first, where it was like professionals like you get into this career usually because of a passion and purpose to help people. And it's like we put our blinders on, and 2 decades later or a decade later or whatever, we wake up, in air quotes, and it's like, well, shit, I haven't been servicing myself or my family, to your point. It's like, talk a little bit about, that journey for you in terms of like, why do you think people do that? I'm curious. I don't know if you have an answer. You don't have to have an answer, but I'm just curious. Why
No, it's fair. Yeah.
charge full steam ahead in an obsession of our own career success and helping others, and yet like we kind of forget about who the person driving the car the most of the time.
Yeah, there's something about our specialty, and I'm lucky to have a wife who keeps me grounded. Who again, when I walk in that, one of the running jokes is that how many neurosurgeons does it take to screw in a light bulb? Only one. I stand there, hold it, and the world revolves around me. Like, we have egos. That's just who we are. Because I have people who are, forgive me, who are catering to me all day, every day. I'm in the OR and everyone there drops what they do and get me what I need. I'm in clinic, if people drop and they run and do whatever I need all day long. And it's hard to not bring that home. So it is a very fulfilling career in that it really does feed that ego. But you get kind of sucked into it, and you get kind of thinking where I must be right because everyone looks at me because I'm the captain of the ship and I'm always right. I must be doing the correct thing because everyone there knows that I'm always right. I'm doing the right thing. But most of us, at least myself, who's wanted to do this job for as long as I can remember, you look up and it just becomes your entire identity. It becomes who you are. And you're a neurosurgeon first, husband second, father third, and you take care of yourself a distant fourth. I don't know. Like, am I proud of what I do? Of course I am. Do I love what I do? Absolutely I do. But in the last few years, it's been such a paradigm shift, and that I'm not interested in defining me and being completely who I am. But part of my journey has been sharing this experience with others. With you, one of the things you really helped me out is not only the physical component's been huge, there's no doubt, but also we talk about regularly about time with Debbie, about time with my kids. How'd you carve that out? Because my whole world was work first, me second, wife and kids a distant third. And you have flipped that for me. I'm certainly focusing on myself, but as opposed to your client who would go out there and go to the Yankees game or go, do the happy hour, mine was, rep dinners or work dinners. I've got reps want to take me out to happy hours, reps taking me out to dinner all the time. And I love that stuff. I eat it up. But meanwhile, I'm not doing that. The wife and kids are back at home. So you have really brought me back and saying, oh yeah, well, when's the last time you and Debbie went for a hike? When's the last time you connect with the kids? And I'm like, yeah, it's embarrassing that it took you pointing that out to me. But you're right. It goes back to the accountability piece we talked early on, is that when I've got to let you know that I actually haven't done shit with my wife in 2 weeks now, but man, I went with 3 rep dinners this past weekend and the food was great. Yeah. That's not okay. Right. So not sure if that actually answers your question, but it's, again, those are the things that I think for me, it's hard to shake the identity of being a surgeon because it's a very rewarding career, and it's a career that I've always wanted to do. But I like to think that I'm more than that.
Yeah, it's been cool to watch you evolve for sure. It was also really cool to see you begin to call yourself out too, and starting to understand. Like, I remember many weeks where you were like, fitness is great, nutrition's great, I got it on point, all good. Me and Deb right now suck,
Oh, yeah. Yes,
and
very much so.
It was cool to be able to just like, I think that's where, for people listening, like, we have these domains, buckets, pillars, whatever you want to call them in your life. And the notion of all of them advancing at the same speed, at an acceptable speed, at the same time is ridiculous. It's like completely ridiculous. And that's this whole concept of work-life balance, where it's like, I should be an amazing husband. I should have my business, operating at a super high level. I should be super fit, and I should be highly connected to my kids. Yes is the answer to all 4 of those things, for sure. But the reality that some of those things are not going to be on tilt at some point, at the expense of the quality, at least the way it feels, zoom out far enough and you'd be like, all right, we're okay. We're just going through a micro season here. The mistake I would always make is like with Tasha, I knew for 3 weeks I was going to be fully locked in on work. I had multiple commitments out, for nights after work. I knew that work was crazy. I knew my mind was on work constantly. I knew I was going to be fairly disconnected the mistake I made was like, I never said a damn thing about it. And it was like all of a sudden 2.5 weeks in, and we're like, we got nothing. I got nothing at home. And then it's like, well, how can she not see that I'm grinding, putting in the hours at work, doing this for us, for our lives? And she's just like, well, me and the kids just want our husband and our dad, And it's like, I might not have been able to change that 3-week mini season, but shit, I could have just communicated like, hey, when this stretches up, like I'm here, and meaning like we'll go away for 24 hours. We'll schedule a date night. I'll take the kids for an entire Saturday while you just go to the spa or hang out with your friends. Now, I can't change this the next 10 days. So what I would, I'm going to do my best, but I would appreciate you having some grace with me, and also just letting me know, like when you feel like you're a little bit, disconnected as far as like I'm not paying enough attention, even when I still have these things to focus on. I don't think a lot of guys like us do a very good job of like being able to see it in the moment, come up to the line like the quarterback does, and just kind of like figure out the defense, being like, oh shit, I'm screwed over here. We just run the play. We run the play. And if the play we're running
is what's going on around us. Yep.
Yeah. If the play we're running is going right and they're overloaded, we're like, well, fuck it. That's what we do.
So we call, we're stuck to it now. Right.
Yeah. And so it was cool to see you over time start to realize that before I even had to check in. Because as to your point, thank you for saying that about like me being proactive, but like, I can't even remember the last time I had to be that proactive with it, where you didn't bring it to me and you were like, hey, in my audit that I'm doing right now, I'm okay right here. I need to spend the next 5 days over indexing my marriage, over indexing some quality time, with the kids.
Yeah. And it took a lot of work. And for me, the physical fitness stuff, I slipped into that one more naturally up front. It was carving the time out for Deb. That's the one that took a little bit more work for me. And I'm not proud to say that. That's just the God's honest truth. That was she was more likely to be the one that I had to work harder to at time to. But the things I learned, I'd get opportunities to go consult. Like here I am working all the time. I'm taking trauma call. I'm working long days, long nights, and I finally get a weekend off. I get asked to go do, consult for a medical device company. And I've got a trip where I'm going to teach residents and fellows in San Diego or Chicago or whatever. Like, sounds great. I get paid ridiculous money to go there for the weekend. And I get to go to San Diego for the weekend and teach. Like, we think about this. So I never asked. And it wasn't like, hey, may I? It was just, I'm in. And then all of a sudden you look up and my family's looking forward to me being home for the weekend. I'm like, oh, actually, I'm not here. I'm going to be in San Diego. Right. So what I started doing was we made it to either a couples thing or a family. So I basically, hey, Deb, how about San Diego the first weekend in September? She's like, you going to bring me? I'm like, yeah. I was like, my work obligations are not that much when I'm there. I got a lot of free time. Let's go hang out, spend the weekend. Or maybe it's one night. I would have gone one night. Let's go make it two and I'll hang out the second night. Or now I got a happy hour invite with a bunch of local friends and reps or whatever. I'm like, Deb, why don't you join us? Come on out. So now I still get to do those, but I incorporate her in the same process. So, and she's fun. Like, my wife, like I can't tell you how many of my parents and how many of my friends, marriages collapsed after the kids left the house. Cause all of a sudden it's like just the two of you, we got to get along. No offense. I can't wait for my kids to leave my house. Like I get to hang out with my girl. Like we're going to have so much fun when they are gone. We got big plans. So it's never been a fight for me to hang out with her. It's always been enjoyable, but it's just taking that step and thinking of her and considering her. So you're right. I was already working on that quite a bit before the two of us got together, but I still got to put it down. I still got to enter it in there. I still got to type that thing out, which still brings back to the accountability piece of still finding a way to make it happen, explain it to you, how I'm going to do it, what we're going to do it. The other thing is we've been a little bit of a physical journey together. She's not near she would call me compulsive. She's not near, she is into it as I am.
Take it easy, Deb, all right? Jesus Christ.
I know. She's like, she is. She's like, when you're in, you're all in. And I'm like, and she's right. But she enjoys going for a walk around the neighborhood. I find that pretty boring. But that being said, if she wants to do it, it's time with her. Great. I'll throw on a rucksack and I'll go around there. We'll go walk around the neighborhood. For a while, she was all into Pure Barre.
Dude, I was on my list.
Yeah,
I was going to bring it up. Like, yeah, go ahead. Please talk about it.
You're looking at your gym stuff. It's like, what's this Pure Barre business? Do you think that counts as a workout? I'm like, it's time with her. She likes to do it. She enjoys. And if you've never done a bar class, you work out muscles you didn't even know you had as a man. Like you come out sore in just very unique places. But again, it's time with her, right? So we go out, we do a pure bar class together. It's not a bad thing, but I've tried to do a much better of factoring in physical fitness things that matter. And in her defense, she also would come to the gym with me. She hates the gym. It smells like a high school locker room. It's not for her. But if it's going for a hike, if it's going for a walk, if it's hitting a bar class, or I bought her some kettlebells. She loves kettlebells. So we'll do a kettlebell workout out on the deck. So it's finding ways to incorporate, the physical aspect of it, but doing with the wife as well.
Yeah. I loved when you told me you were doing that, when I was like, yo, what is this? What are you doing? And yeah, listen, man, Deb really likes it. I'm like, that's it. You're good. Done. Keep doing it. So look, when you're doing all the things you were doing and getting that, and even if quite frankly, it carved into a little bit of you got to strength train. I mean, your hikes didn't carve into our steps. That was obviously additive, but
sure. Mm-hmm.
I tell, clients all the time. One client, like his wife likes to go to the gym at the same time with him. And he's like, bro, he's like, my wife is 100 pounds soaking wet. Like I can't get a good workout in with her. And I'm like, cool, do it one day a week. Lift the same, do a workout together one day a week. I get it. It's not going to be as intense. It's not going to be that savage session. He goes the other 3 or 4 days with like his fucking Eastern Ukrainian, Romanian buddy who's like 300 pounds, 6'6", and the dude's like, you can lift these 80s. He's like, it's going to break me, bro. You can't give me those. No, so he has this massive like barbell approach of like 100 pounds, 6, 7, 300 pounds. But it's like, but he gets a lot out of that too. He gets pushed to extremes that he wouldn't do on his own. So it's putting ourselves in these different environments, and especially with, our wives. Like Tasha has no interest in working out with me, but if she was like, hey, I'm kind of interested in the gym, like, would you take me to the gym? And I'd be like, 100%.
Let's go.
Yeah. Because how many times do we get to actually sort of do multiple things at once with people and check these boxes? I mean, we're constant box checkers in our lives in other areas. It's like, well,
sure.
Why does connection with your wife have to be a restaurant on Friday night?
Agreed completely.
It could be a cup of coffee on your back patio, looking at a great view. Like be a lot of these different things. So I was going to ask you about that because you were like, hey man, don't judge me, but I'm doing this like this sort of gay thing.
You get creative, right? And if nothing else, like the eye candy at a bar class, if you've never gone to a bar class, it's worth your time. It's something to do. I remember the first time I walked in, like all of the women there, because I'm the only dude who goes. Right. So they're all pointing at me like, there's a guy in here, like I'm supposed to be here.
Creepy dude.
Like, the instructor's like, it's not curves. Like he's allowed to take the class, right? So I'm like, how y'all doing? Don't mind me. I'm gonna go.
By the way, to your point, doing a modality of exercise that you're not used to, you don't have to try very hard for it to be really difficult. I think I had to take 4 credits, so it was like 2 classes of fine arts in college, and so since the jazz dance room, the dancing room was next to the gym in the fitness, in the gym you had to be in for 6 hours a day playing basketball next to the weight room. We're like, we'll take jazz dance 1 and 2. Because like, all you have to do is show up to get an A. Teacher was she was very cool. We'd leave her tickets to the game. But we have to like stand there doing like these like, little warm up moves. I'm like, yeah, I put my arms down. She's like, you're the biggest dude in here. Put your damn well, my shoulders hurt. She's like, you're gonna go throw weights around in the weight room.
No, it's different. It's like up an inch, down an inch, up an inch, down an inch. I mean, you do that long enough, even these little bitty 5-pound weights, you start to shake. You do. Like Mike, I walk out of there, my calves, my abs, and my groin muscles are just killing me when I finish the class. So, but we finish up, we go grab dinner. On the way home, or like you said, we go up to we have what we call Hideout Hill. It's a little hill beside our house. We can look out over Castle Rock, and it's a beautiful view. So nothing else in the afternoon. Let's go sit up there. Let's go have a drink. Let's go grab, have a cup of coffee and sit on Hideout Hill. It's 5 minutes. It's 10 minutes. It's just time engaging with your significant other.
I love to see the sort of flow you have in your life now in terms of, how you operate it, how you schedule it, how you look, to plan out your weeks. Thinking about like, I do have this travel now, you are transitioning. We can talk a little bit, maybe if you want. There's a little transition you're going through professionally and how that affects you. But like, you're constantly looking at, you're in Nebraska every month, you're in Boulder every month. And you're managing like, okay, I now have my Nebraska routine. I have my Boulder, Colorado routine. I'm even going to bring one of the kids up every once in a while and spend, a day there because it's only a drive, right? Like you've managed to develop these little mini habits and routines and schedules into, you probably have like 6 of them or something like that, right? You have your clinic days, you have your OR days, you have your travel days, you have your I'm home, I'm your single dad at home right now days. Like, how do you think about laying out your weeks like that? And is there any, like, what do you not struggle with now that you used to then? Anything that comes to mind?
Sure. Yeah. So, back to the reason behind it, I've been, again, practicing full time in South Denver for the last 12 years. And again, I love my practice. I enjoy where I am. But ever since COVID, I've been trying to figure out how to be part-time, how to spend more time at home. And what you've learned is your value as a neurosurgeon is different in different areas, in different underserved areas, if you will. So I'm doing a few days of locums work in a small town in Nebraska as part of a rural outreach medicine program, trying to keep folks from not having to travel too far from middle America to find healthcare. So, twice a month for 2 days, they fly you out and you operate and you do, see clinic patients out there. And I love Nebraska. Nebraska might be the favorite part of my practice right now because it's just, dude, it's small town America. These are just good old boys. I mean, this is very similar to the small town I grew up, in Southeast Texas. They just want to get better. I told the first patient, I was like, well, here's the skinny. I can offer you this surgery. This is the recovery. He's like, well, I can't even consider this until, we get behind the bean harvest. I'm like, oh my God, that's the most Nebraska thing ever. Like, beautiful. But that's
step 1, bean harvest. Step 2,
bean harvest. Step 2, look at just me when I get my spine fixed. So I love the people out there. It's just, I don't know. It's a great place to practice. But that brings, and then the other one's Boulder. Boulder was an area that needed, help with trauma call. So very different than the elective spine stuff you do in Nebraska, but they needed help with neurosurgery. So I go out there to help run trauma call out there and help with the trauma program in a couple of hospitals in that area. But by going in other areas, you can capitalize on your productivity in shorter periods of time. So by doing that, it allows me more flexibility, more days off. So the travel stinks because it's, again, time away from the family. But I've helped that by, I'll bring the boy out, so bring the son out. My son will come out. Brooks will hang out with me for the weekend at the hotel, and it's quality time we get to spend together. But you get to make a little bit more during that time. So then you come home, I'm present. I'm here. I get to bring the kids to school, pick the kids up from school. One of the first stretches I had when I was home, like next thing you know, I'm bringing the boy to the orthodontist. And they're asking me these questions about, well, do you want to do this? And you want to prepay for that? Do you want to win your follow-up? And I'm like,
talk to my wife, man.
I refuse to be that husband to call my wife. And I'm like, just signing up for stuff left and right. I'm like, yeah, it sounds good. Definitely. Let's go ahead and do that. I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I've never done these things. I'm ready to be that kind of dad now. But I find from an activity standpoint, it's not as challenging, especially in Boulder, because I've got gyms all over. 24-hour, I could find somewhere. That's pretty easy to figure out. Nebraska is more challenging, right? With all due respect to Sidney, Nebraska, there are no gym options in Sidney, Nebraska. So hotel's got a treadmill. They have a couple of weights. So that's kind of my cardio stretch. I know that I'm not going to get a heavy lift in there. So I'm going to be active. I'll jump on the treadmill. I'll bring my tablet. I'll watch some college football. I'll watch podcasts. I'll watch something. And I just know that I'm just going to move when I'm in Nebraska. The harder piece for me was the nutrition, trying to get your macros in, your calories in during the day. So I travel with food everywhere I go. I roll into Boulder. I've got a nice job. I got a backpack, and my backpack is stuffed. And the first thing I do to get to Boulder is I go and get signed out from all my patients, review imaging. If I've got any dead time, I go to the local grocery store and I stock up. I've got it's a residence inn and suite. So I've got a kitchen. Make sure I've got that. So I stock food and I prep. When I go to Nebraska, I get off the King Air and I roll out with my suitcase and my backpack, which is an ice chest. And I've got my protein pods, I've got my yogurt, I've got my powder, I've pre-made my sandwich for lunch. So my meals are square when I'm there, other than dinner. I'll figure dinner out that time. That's kind of the flexible meal. Yeah. But they laugh. I walk in the hospital and there I am, Brad's with his backpack, full of his meals. I don't find it weird anymore. I'm still able to be consistent, and by bringing protein bars, by bringing my powder mix, whatever it may be, the nutrition was the harder one. But again, once you've done it 2 or 3 times, I got to figure it out. Now it's still a routine for me at this point, just a little different routine.
Yeah, I mean this is applicable to anybody who has to travel, who goes anywhere by car, which is how you go to Boulder, and by plane, which is how you go to Nebraska. I mean, There are grocery stores everywhere. You can bring stuff with you. You can always get a steak and vegetables and a glass of wine at dinner. At a restaurant might be, actually Nebraska's probably a pretty damn good steak, but
burgers and steaks, they got those square, right? And corn. Yeah, they got those things taken care of.
It's like we can figure this stuff out. It's just placing a little bit, not even a lot, just a little bit of intention and planning around it. It's like, your schedule for the most part. I mean, maybe the trauma stuff you don't know, but sure, most people traveling know their schedule. And it's Absolutely. Like we put time into planning our schedule, and we put time into putting together this whole calendar for ourselves. Yet, we get to a meal time and we're like on the fly go, fuck it, what should I eat? And it's like, if you just started to treat your personal life with the same level of intention and planning and commitment, and then also a little bit of grit every once in a while, I'm pretty sure you don't always want to go to Boulder or Nebraska. I'm pretty sure you don't always want to do long OR days or clinic days, but you do because you're committed to your career. You're committed to your profession as a professional. It's like, if you just put some of the same processes into place in your personal life and plan some of this stuff out, you'd probably make some really good decisions, and it wouldn't feel that hard after the initial friction of, I'm Dr. Duhan walking into the hospital with my backpack on.
I know it is. And that when I travel with my kids, we go to vacation. It's that first travel day is the toughest. It's the day in the airport. It's whatever. They know my bag is going to get flagged every time we travel because I have meals inside my carry-on. Every time. Beef jerky is my passion. Like I get Costco-sized things of beef jerky shipped to my house from Tillamook. It's the zero sugar, jerky, whatever. I've got different varieties and flavors. I always travel with that. And if I roll out of here and I get, I've got a sandwich in my bag. I've got other snacks and things in my bag. I always do. So my bag is more, because the organic stuff always gets flagged. So I'm more likely to have my bag flagged and gone through and swapped because I have food in there. Nothing else.
Let's go. I got to get to the airport. I need extra time
to get through it. So I know I'm going to slow us down. But at least for me, I know I've eaten my protein meal when I first get up. Yeah. And I know that I can handle my snack when I get to the airport. And I know that I can handle my lunch. Whatever happens I got a little flexibility. We can figure that part out. But it's on myself. I won't lie, I feel that working with you, I actually have so much more flexibility in what I eat than I've ever had, because I'm the fad diet guy. I have been the one that's gone paleo. I have gone keto. I've gone no walk. I have tried all of those things, and my wife has always called me the yo-yo because I will lean up. I'll get in great shape on this fad diet. It's not sustainable. At least for me personally, I can't stay keto. If I did 6 months was long. I can't stay because it's not applicable to the real world. It's so hard to go to a restaurant. It's so hard for me to travel trying to do those diets. Is impossible. I think I told you once, one of the joys of working with you is I've eaten more sandwiches in the last year than I have in the last 5 years. And I love sandwiches. I love burgers. But I cut out carbs for so many times thinking that was the solution. Yeah. And it's not. It's consistency. That's the solution, right? So for me, I got more flexibility now than I ever have because there are no foods that are off limits. It's about balancing. It's about counting. It's about learning what's what. Get your macro, get your protein in and get your total calorie count in, and the rest is gravy.
I remember you're like, yo, I can eat sandwiches. I'm like, yeah,
sandwiches.
Did you like,
dude, sandwiches?
Are you punking me? Are you serious?
I pull it out of my backpack, and I'm like, old school Dagwood cartoon sandwiches. I got layers of meat like this. I ate a real sandwich, and
I call a New York City Jewish deli sandwich.
Yeah, that's it.
When I travel, I'll make a sandwich, and it'll have couple pieces of lower fat cheese, so I don't plow through calories.
Yep.
And a little bit of mayo or spicy mustard if you want to keep the calories down, but something to just make it not so dry. But I load up ham and turkey on there, and it's like people sitting next to me in the plane, they're like, "What the fuck is this?" It's like,
what is this thing? I can barely get my mouth around this thing. It's everything I have to take that in my mouth. Yeah. But again, I try to get where damn near every one of my meals has got 40 to 50 grams of protein in it. I got to figure out how to do that, right? So if that's that, I don't know how many, couple ounces of beef jerky on top of it. So it is, but the consistency of this, while yes, it requires planning, yes, it requires prepping, and that's part of my eating routine. I had more variety in my meals now than I've ever had in the past, which for me, I'll take it.
I appreciate that. And that's great. And I just remember too, you got to look, part of this coaching thing too is the art of coaching. And I knew, you got to know your customer. And I knew I was working with a good old boy. And so like, I knew if I said something stupid like no steaks, no red meat, you would have been like, you're fired. Thanks for your time. You're fired. So I just had to phrase it like, listen, when we're in our fat loss phase, this is when I'm so sorry, but we got to put those sausages that you're getting on the hunt and the ribeyes, maybe we keep those in the freezer for a couple of months and we just go with lean fillets. It's like, it's just understanding the food that you're consuming and the impact it has from a calorie standpoint. So it's like, I didn't say you can't do this. It's just educating you. We're all fucking smart people. Just sometimes we don't know that we're not as intelligent in one area of our life. There's a phrase I heard recently. I was like, that's me in so many areas. Nobel Prize syndrome, where it's like you have people who have won a Nobel Prize, which means usually they're pretty smart, right?
Sure, no doubt.
But they're so dumb. They've believed in such hocus pocus in some areas. It's like, I'm not gonna look it up because it's like this documented thing. It's like Nobel Prize winner in this area, and then believed in some stupid ass theory in another. Or it's like I got neurosurgeons, huge egos, right? Wall Street guys, huge egos. Where it's like, yeah, I know what to do. Like, well, no, you don't. You don't actually know what to do.
Nope.
You're repeating the same, not disastrous actions, but like the same like 50%, not really getting you there. So it's like, yes, ribeyes have protein. Yes, they are at, a relatively healthy source relative to maybe some other options. But we could strip out 300 calories and just have you have a piece of steak, like a lean fillet, and actually get more protein in, less calories. And like all of a sudden we turned your brain on and you were like, okay, I can do this.
I can do that. Yeah. Well, as opposed to you can't. When something's forbidden, it's human nature, right? Scarcity break. And all of a sudden, what do you mean I can't? Tell me I can't have that. If I can't have that, I'm going to seek it out. That's just who I am. It's human nature to crave what you can't have. But you're right out of the gate when you're tracking, it was like, dude, ribeyes, huh? It was ribeyes and brats. And in my mind,
you got to chill on the brats, dude.
I'm protein loading. What are you talking about? This is great. But I never wrapped my head around the concept of how much fat I was taking in, because you go back to the keto days, which is like, dude, that's great. I'm not, we know that fat's not detrimental to you, but when you're looking at it, from a caloric density standpoint, it's a big deal. And it turns out fillets are pretty good. Not bad, right? I mean, it's not dripping off the grill like we Texans like it.
But yeah, we would say, but like, listen, if you're going to have ribeye, have it at home. Because at least you're not going to put the 4 tablespoons of butter that the restaurant's going to put on it. And so like, again, everything is contextual. It's like just understanding these little things here and there,
And I saved my ribeye for a Friday or Saturday. And forgive me, I cut you off there, but it's planning, it's prepping. I know that Friday nights are going to be my ribeye night. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ease up during the day. I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to account for it. I'm going to say, I'm going to pre-enter my ribeye that night. I know that I'm going 1,000 calories or hell, I might go 1,800 calories for dinner. So ease up during the day. Get yourself ready for it.
Yeah. And so I guess maybe we alluded to you making great progress and gains, but you were like, you weren't overweight, when we started, but you were kind of like the typical, mediocre. You were fine. You were good enough. You were pretty good, and you're like, I don't want that anymore. You dropped 20 plus or so, or 20 or so pretty quickly, got lean and mean. And now we're in the process of, kind of putting a little muscle on you and you look phenomenal. But like, where do you want to, I haven't asked you this. Great. Where do you want to take yourself? Like, what do you see yourself over the next couple of years?
It was, and I had been moving because I had been working on my own a few months ahead of you, doing my own thing in my yo-yo phase. So I actually was 203, 204 when I began working on my own. I'm trying to lean up on my, get in shape. When you and I signed on, I was about 194, if I'm not mistaken. And by January, we got a party cruise with the wife and a bunch of friends. I got to 173. And I had not been, I was not 175 since high school. That was my come out of graduating high school weight. And it becomes a self-fulfilling. I mean, it feeds into itself because everyone's like, holy shit, like, wait, what? Where did this come from? So now I don't want to live at 173 necessarily, but now it's been one of those where you gradually, incrementally add in, put a little weight on, you notice the muscle. You put a little weight, notice the muscle. And that's my thing is now that we've been at this for a year, if you will, it's kind of like learning the playbook. It's learning, okay, I know that what my baseline caloric intake is. I know how active I need to be to keep it right there. And if I'm trying to put on a little muscle, we can gradually, incrementally add something on there. But if I've got an event, we've got a beach trip, we got a cruise, we got a something. Okay, I know how to spend the next 4 to 6 weeks and cutting it back, cutting it back, cutting it back. And that's so much, because it used to be one of those where, okay, I've got an event coming up, and I would just starve myself, get so sick of it, I would then gorge and have a bender of a weekend, right? And my cheat day turned into a cheat few days, and everything's out the window. So he started all over again. And that was where my yo-yoing is always coming to fast.
Remember you describing the boat cruise to me. I'm like, this sounds like Burning Man, but on a boat. You're like,
Burning Man on a boat, baby.
That's exactly what it is.
It is.
Okay, I know what we're doing for the next 6 weeks. We're good.
He was like, you and your glow sticks have fun. He goes, go and have
I'm from New Jersey. You don't have to sell me on one of those trips, buddy. I got you.
God, so much fun. It's Disneyland for grown-ups. That's what the Groove Cruise out of Miami. If any girl listening, give it a look. Shout out to the Groove Cruise.
Well, man, I appreciate you, man. I didn't cover this in the beginning, but we have a very special connection to you and your wife. Brad and Debbie housed my wife, Tasha, and myself, and we brought Hudson out, who's now 15. Mm-hmm. Mila, who's now 10, was conceived in Lone Tree, Colorado via a fertility clinic. It's where my sperm was inserted into Tasha's.
I was like, I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, Tasha's egg, and became an embryo. And so, we got to spend a week out there. You guys hosted us. And so I always have this special connection to the two of you, obviously via Debbie and Scott and Ryan, who are buddies of mine from high school. And I've known Debbie since I was a little kid. So to watch you transform, man, has been really cool. And to just, our relationship to grow a little bit, and to become professional, but also remain personal has been amazing for me. So I just want to say, I appreciate you, man. It's been amazing to watch you transform, and not give anything away professionally. I think your professional life is as good as it's ever been. Those are my words. You correct me if I'm wrong. Your marriage is always a work in process, but as good as it's ever been. And you're that dad that you were talking about, you wanted to be. So way to go, bro.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I owe a ton. Like, I can't say how many of my friends have seen me and seen the growth. And I've always been one of those guys. I want to crush it in life, but I want all my friends and all my family and all people to come along with me. And I've introduced so many folks to you who have also signed on with you. Like, he's like, you're always like, dude, keep going on cruises. Every time you go on a cruise, somebody signs up. He goes, so keep it up. Keep taking your shirt off, whatever you got to do. But
I need you're out there in the streets with your shirt off. That's marketing. That's the best marketing I got, man. You go on vacation and you come back with a new client. So,
you guys sign them. That's the way it plays.
I appreciate that as well. I appreciate all your hard work. Of course.
Well, you showed me the playbook. I've learned so much from you. Again, I really thank you. I appreciate you, and I'm a better man for knowing you. So thank you, Brian.
Awesome. I can't wait to keep it rolling with you and watch you keep growing, bro.
All right, sounds great.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you know a neurosurgeon, if you know a doctor, a performing professional, if you know anybody in the Castle Rock, Lone Tree, Denver area, go find Brad. But appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you back here next week, man.
All right, thanks, dude.